All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 95 of the Hideout, where we will be discussing blockchain gaming and the metaverse and all things that surround it. We've got another awesome panel for everyone today and really excited to dive in. I know we are waiting on a couple more guests, so we will get them up on stage as they join, but no reason to delay the start. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and our Legions 2029 game. I've been in the space since 2017. We've been building Satoshiverse since about 2020 when we started as a comic NFT collaboration with the infamous Jose Delbo. We created a Bitcoin-themed superhero universe that led to our two avatar collections, the Legionnaires and the 8Mo Army, and then eventually to our game, Legions 2029. We won't go too deep into it, but what I would say is if you haven't heard about what we're building and what we're building specifically with Legions 2029, check out the pin tweet at the top of the spaces. We're live in open alpha. We're taking feedback. There's a ton of incentives. We have a lot of, really cool tournaments and things going on. It's a PC game and it's free to play. So, there's no token gating. Of course, if you have the avatars, there's perks within the game. But check out, I think the video is worth 1,000 words. So I'll spare you guys the 1,000 words. But really short, we've got all these tournaments that we're running, and it is a fast-paced hack and slash game, with combat that was inspired by God of War and a blockchain-based progression system for items and characters that were inspired from, RPGs like Diablo, and then we incorporated a roguelike gameplay loop from games like Hades. So really a mix of different genres, really unique, our take at kind of what a blockchain game could be. We spent about 2.5 years already building the game with about a 20-person team. So yeah, check it out. It's free to play. That's all I'll say on that, because we have an awesome panel of guests that what we'll do is, and I'm just trying to get people up here right now. Looks like we've got a few others. Cool. So I see I'm going to get Numa up as well. All right, so I think I'm getting you guys up, and I'll keep doing that for those of you who are still in the audience. But what we'll do is quick introductions for each of the guests. Tell us who you are, what you're building, where people can find you. Feel free to pin anything to the top of the space that's visual, especially if you have, if you're a game, you have gameplay footage, whatever you have that you think would be interesting for the viewer to see, please put it up there. We definitely want to share everything that you guys are building. And yeah, let's jump into some quick intros, and then we'll dive into the set of questions for everybody. Why don't we start with LJ over at Courtyard? Welcome to the spaces.
Hi, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. So hi everyone, I'm LJ. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Courtyard.io. So we are essentially bringing collectibles on chain. So we built a vaulted marketplace for trading cards. So you can think of Pokemon cards, sports card, basketball cards, and so on, where you can simply trade those cards as NFTs that are backed by the physical that are stored in vaults at Brinks. And so you can essentially, whenever you buy a card on Courtyard, an NFT on Courtyard, you can always decide to redeem that NFT. And so we burn the NFT and we ship you the card across the world. We also built a digital repack experience. And so it's kind of like recreating the magic of opening a pack in a digital fashion. So rather than going to the store and opening a pack there, you can open a digital pack online that has a physical card behind it. And so you can, whenever you want, just take up your phone, buy a pack, see what you have, redeem it, sell it on the marketplace, or potentially sell it back to Courtyard if you don't like what you have. So that's at the high level, but super excited to start a conversation there.
Amazing. Well, great to have you on. I mean, as someone who has used the platform before to buy, the Pokemon card when you guys first launched, I loved the experience. It was super smooth, definitely a fan of what you were building, and just this idea of, real world collectibles being represented through NFTs to kind of open up, liquidity and downstream sales. I think there's so much that can be done there. And so really excited for a while about what you guys are building. So thanks for being on the space. Let's jump over to Cocody. I was just checking out your trailer before, and it looks awesome. So tell us about what you're building.
Thanks. This is Django behind Cocody's account. So I just pinned actually two different, when you mentioned about like pinning gameplay footage, I pinned two tweets over there so you can have a look about what Cocody is actually bringing to the table. But in short, we are very, very unique an extraction shooter game. Unique in a sense that, first of all, you play with very colorful, cartoonish characters with lots of inspiration from Japanese anime in a magical world, fantasy world. So not a typical setting, I would say, for a shooter game. And on top of this, we are also building something what we call extraction royale. So think of taking PUBG Battle Royale and putting this into a shooter game. We've been building for 3 years. Our core product is and always will be the game. We are gamers at heart and want to bring amazing games to the people. Basically to be able to enjoy, not just for like 1 or 2 hours because there is any kind of incentives behind it, but actually having great gaming experiences. You can play Cocody for 50 or 100 hours plus and still have fun. We're incubated by CD5, building together with close partnership with Avalanche and Merit Circle or Beam Network. So our token soon to be will be on the AVAX network, and all our gaming assets are on Beam Network. Happy to be here and talk with you guys.
I love it. Well, definitely excited to see you guys continue to build and launch some awesome games. So that it's I have to test it out. I'll definitely jump in and try to get in there. Let's see. I think. Oh yeah, there we go. We have Numa here. Numa, welcome to the Spaces. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are building?
Bang! What's happening, fellas? Awesome speaker panel and awesome to be here. Thank you for having us. My name is Chris. I am AKA Soze on social media. I'm the co-founder of Numa Social. We are building a decentralized and distributed AI marketplace for the creator economy. We're building this because we obviously see the emergence of artificial intelligence and the expansion of Web3 becoming a key variable in helping content creators build their pipelines of content distribution. And so with that, we kind of do it in 3 overlapping phases. We start with obviously the growth hacking and community building, which is synonymous with Web3. With my previous projects and mentoring some other Web3 projects, I've been able to put together probably about 2 to 3 million community members in several different communities. And so we start by, kind of how AI is built. We start with the human element. Obviously, humans play a vital role in structuring data and preparing it for algorithms and AI products and services. So we do the same thing. We're building our community, which not only helps us grow, but other projects can tap into our ecosystem to help them grow as well. And then with that, we move to the next phase, which is the AI marketplace. And beyond that would be the compute level. Obviously, AI is growing rapidly, and there's just no way that we can build chips fast enough to actually supply the demand that is the labor behind AI, which is compute power. And so we will have a decentralized distributed compute engine where people can spare their GPUs or their CPU to help power the algorithms that are within our ecosystem to help creators automate their pipelines. So yeah, that's a little bit about Numa. My past, I've been in the space since 2016, building the first AI protocol on the blockchain, Effect.ai, and the Effect network. I was behind that. And we've built products and services like Super Spaces.ai, the first data analytics platform for Twitter Spaces. Launch My NFT, the first no-code NFT generator that's done about 9 million mints. So you can see elements of these previous projects be deployed within the Numa network as well to help content creators connect more deeply with their fan base. That's Numa.
Amazing. Well, very excited to have you guys on. I'm excited I got introduced to Numa from a member of your community, well, a member of your team, Remote Cryptoverse. So I see out in the audience there. Shout out to you guys. I'm very excited that we were able to connect in Singapore in person. He's been a member of our community for a very, very long time. So very, very excited to have you guys on and continue to learn about what you guys are building. And I think that will get us over to Spencer, who is going to take us away with the questions for today.
Hey, what is going on, everyone? My name is Spencer Bogle. I am the business development manager for Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment. I hope everyone is doing good today. Excited to have this space. So I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items real quick. So the first of which is going to be I just pinned a tweet to the top of the space that says we are live. And basically, we run a giveaway every week on these spaces, and we are giving away this week 5 Satoshi's crystals, which are one of our main in-game resources within the Satoshiverse. You use these to upgrade your avatars and your in-game items. So really, really important resource. Definitely something you want to have. So in order to win this giveaway, all you have to do is repost that tweet that I just pinned to the top, and then just be here at the end of the space when we finish up and we draw a winner. So, yep, really excited giveaway. Definitely make sure to enter that. And then also, if you haven't already, give the Hideout account that I'm speaking from right now a follow, so you can stay up to date on all of the upcoming spaces that we have, which we have every single week at the same time. So getting into the format for the space, so we're going to start off with a question for the group. I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump into the conversation from there. No need to raise your hand or ask the speaker anything. Then we'll do some individual questions for each of you guys, and then we'll move back into group questions again at the end if we have time. So getting into the first question, and maybe we can have Kokodi start us on this one. So how do you think Web3 and the Metaverse are reshaping how people define ownership in both virtual and real spaces?
That's a really good question, and obviously I will say it from our perspective at Kokodi. I mentioned earlier that Kokodi is building a game, and this is our main focus. You know, this is the product that we actually want to bring out to the market. We want people to use. And recently, I don't know if your timeline, but my timeline is completely like filled with Off the Grid, which is a fellow Avalanche game as well. And I think they are doing something good and something that we've been preaching for past couple of months as well. And that is, first of all, we want to bring a good quality product to the market. So I feel like Kokodi is among the handful of games that are just basically focused on quality first and foremost, and making sure that the people who actually get their hands on the game can truly enjoy it. And this is, I feel like, you know, a lot of people don't really understand how big of an effort it actually takes to build a game like Kokodi or like Off the Grid or like any of the big games that are coming out there from the Web2 market, right? So I mentioned this because this is kind of something that you have to lead with. And a lot of the times, you know, even right now, I'm really happy to see that even when kind of like the Web2 influencers or streamers get their hands on that game, they suddenly at one point of time figure out that, oh, by the way, this is actually a crypto game, this is a blockchain game, or there's some Web3 component to this. And this is something that I want to see from the new wave, new generation of Web3 games coming, that kind of experience. Because then at one point of time, you can actually see how the light bulb actually lights up in people's heads. Is like, oh, this is a game that I have fun playing. There is no any kind of crypto advertisement or NFT advertisement off the bat. But after a while, once they kind of get convinced to the quality of the game, they start realizing, oh, by the way, when I used to play CSGO or anything like this, or maybe some of the other favorite titles, then they start talking about if I spend money on any assets inside that game, there is a big advantage of the fact that this game is actually on blockchain, and all of the assets, if I do spend money on any in-game assets, are actually sitting on the blockchain. So this is kind of like maybe long-winded way to try to explain to people why the blockchain and the gaming, in my mind at least, are kind of meant to be together, because it does bring a real value and real solution to the existing gaming industry as we know it. In the past, we have seen it over and over that there's like a central authority that is always controlling whatever is it that you do within the game, and even more so as of recent, it is kind of being pushed even further, that even though you spend upfront money even on just being able to start playing the game, those entities, those gaming studios will tell you it's like, actually, you don't own that game. What you own is just a license to play that game. And people are like, the users, the gamers are rightfully kind of off-put by just that, because they say like, hey, I spent $50, $100, $500 on anything inside that game, and I don't even truly own it. So this is when the light bulb moment comes in and kind of starts lighting up in like people who are real gamers' heads, because they realize, oh, if I can actually enjoy playing this game, and on top of this, it also has the crypto component or the Web3 component where I actually truly own those assets. If I spend anything inside, I can easily move it out and either trade it on the marketplace, and it doesn't have to be any kind of gray area or kind of black market, backhanded marketplace, or P2P kind of direct sales of the skins or anything like this. And if I want to kind of move my assets around very quickly from one place to another, I can easily do so. And I am empowered. I am the one that is empowered by everything that I do inside that game. This is the big kind of step forward, not just for, like I say, the crypto industry, like, oh, the crypto industry is kind of maybe start veering off and start talking about like Web3 gaming, but actually for the gaming industry. And I want to also illustrate one big other point. If you look on the bird eye view, there is estimate right now that there is 500 to 600 million crypto users. Compare this with the gaming industry, there's over 5 billion gamers and over 1 billion of PC or console gamers. So the market on the gaming side is, as it is right now, already much bigger. So the potential for actually onboarding the users and kind of cross-referencing the users in between is much bigger for the gaming industry. And this is obviously why, this is one of the big reasons why for us at Cocody, as a gaming studio, once we decided that this is what we want to do, and we have a lot of experience in actually building games in particular, and this is our strong point, we've decided to do this with the Web3 component. We decided to raise the money in Web3, but also this is where our journey kind of starts. And I feel like the next couple of years is going to just basically showcase just that. It's just that it simply needs time, first of all, to educate the new wave of users, of gamers. And secondly, it takes time to actually build a quality game, build a quality product. And we are just on the verge, I feel like, on witnessing of this new Web3 kind of wave of games coming to the market. And obviously, I'm excited to see that.
I'd love to jump in on this subject matter. All amazing points by Kokudi about game assets. Obviously, everybody's playing games. Everybody has played games. The evolution of mobile games and buying in-game items and not owning them is it's a crazy and funny thing that people do, but to level up. But not having ownership there. So I think there's so much there that Web3 can produce on owning these in-game items. But what excites me the most with Web3, and we've been through so many different eras of, Web3 and Web3 community building, that if you look back at 2017, very tribalistic as we moved into NFTs and this whole weird thing that happened. And then we're moving into the gaming and digital assets. It seems to be a much more collaborative space. And that's the part that excites me the most when it comes to games, metaverses, and different platforms where you can own assets, because the cross collaboration between projects and having these items in multiple different games. It was hard for me to understand at first, but once I got my kids, on Sandbox, I realized that I can play with my Bored Ape. So I have this digital asset, and then I can flex that digital asset within this environment, which creates an incredible partnership between different ecosystems, different projects, different games, different metaverses, and creates a wide open field for partnerships and communities to actually exponentially grow, because usually you have one game, you have lots of competition, and you want to keep people in your game and out of other games. But with these digital assets, as I'm collecting them and being able to use them in different ecosystems and partner with people and come up with ideas of how these items may work within the game, I think that's really one of the most exciting parts, because to take your, let's say your special hat in Angry Birds and be able to bring it into a metaverse project because there was a partnership there, I think that is pretty interesting and neat. So owning the digital assets gives you the capabilities of being able to use them all over the place. And I'm really excited to see where that might advance. And I think Sandbox, although they've got 37 monthly active users, unfortunately, I think that they're really the trailblazers and trendsetters of, really understanding how to partner with celebrities, other digital assets, and have those digital assets widely available and usable within their game. So that's my take. It's an exciting future for sure. I don't know where we're at or how long it's going to take for that mass adoption, but obviously guys that are on the speaker panel and you guys are building, the first stages of mass adoption. And so I'm very excited to follow along in this industry that I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in there if if no one else on the panel wants to jump in. I think that there were two things that really stood out to me, and I guess as a little bit of context, my background before I got into this space was as a lawyer in the entertainment and intellectual property space. So my kind of early interest in NFTs was more from what will this technology do for digital assets more generally. And, as a lifelong lover of games and gamer myself, that kind of naturally led to gaming. And then I came in and started, talking to the founders of platforms like the Sandbox and Decentraland. And those were kind of my entry points into the space. So this is kind of a question, we get to write the question, so maybe that's not a coincidence, but that's very, near and dear to me. And I think that, from my perspective, from a technical standpoint, and what do NFTs do? It's exactly what you were saying, Numa, in that you have this technology that essentially allows authentication of digital assets in a decentralized way. So it opens up the potential to not have to keep things in a walled garden, and to increase utility beyond just a single universe. And you can do that through partnerships. You can do that through direct integrations. But I think there's, and this is where I start to get excited. I think there's potential for things to expand quite a bit beyond, direct partnerships. And so for me, when I think about ownership and what that means, I won't use the same exact example I use on the spaces all the time, because the crowd's probably tired of that one. But let's just say, to illustrate it, you have, a physical backpack with a Batman logo on it. I usually use T-shirt with Superman logo, but we'll go with backpack with a Batman logo today. Everybody knows what you can do with that backpack, with that logo, right? You don't own the logo because you have a Batman backpack. You own the backpack. And with that backpack, you can take that backpack to events. You could, walk into a Marvel comic shop and, buy a bunch of comic books and put it in that backpack, even though, it's a DC brand. You don't need direct partnerships. You don't need, people's say so, because owning that backpack gives you a certain set of rights that apply, by regulation to physical goods and physical goods with IP on them. And in turn, there's licensing deals that essentially allow that IP to be on that backpack. And then for you to, let's say that backpack's a collector's item, and I think this is kind of near and dear to Courtyard, right? You're able to go on eBay and sell that backpack, or on, Courtyard if it's a Pokemon card, and sell that Pokemon card as a user. And you have the IP rights to do that because of something called the first sale doctrine that allows you to sell physical goods and market their IP for downstream sales, right? So you take that and you compare that to what exists for digital assets. For almost, the last 30 years, we've had digital assets, and we've had this conception of ownership, whether that's in gaming or digital collectibles, where we think we own something. But as a legal matter, and I think Cody was talking about this before, Django, there's not a lot there, right? The game itself, you're getting a license to use the game, and within the game, you're getting a sub-license to essentially display the IP in connection with your playing the game. You can't market it for downstream sales. You can't list it on eBay. You can't do any of that stuff. And part of that is because the games want to keep this closed garden, right? But another part of that is because there is no regulatory scheme for digital assets beyond their use as intellectual property. And what I mean by that is, because a digital t-shirt, right, or a digital backpack with a Superman logo, let's say, or a Batman logo in this example, if that backpack's digital, the only thing it is IP. And so the only thing that you can convey in it is either granting them a right to the IP itself, right, to an ownership right in the IP, which of course they wouldn't do. DC's not going to do that. Or you can grant this sub-license that essentially says you can display this IP in these limited circumstances. Okay, so what do NFTs do? NFTs have the potential to act as a tangibilization layer for those physical goods. For those digital goods. So like the backpack, like the object, this thing that you can actually own and have rights to, that has nothing to do with the IP other than that the IP is displayed on it. An NFT can similarly be a semi-tangible digital object that you can have ownership rights to that are completely detached from the IP itself. And what does that do? It allows us to start looking at decades worth of regulations and laws and infrastructure that's been set up around the physical goods space, and start to apply some of that to the digital goods space. So for me, and kind of the reason I hung up my cleats and said, you know what, this is the space, this is where this is going, I want to be part of it rather than on the legal side, is that is the paradigm shift, right? This is a complete different way of looking at how licensing deals are done. It's a different way of looking how we manage digital rights. I mean, there's a million different use cases that little detail opens up for digital assets, for digital objects, as we progress into a future that's more and more digital. And so I know that was a lot of legal, circular, reasoning, but I think that to me, that's the most important thing that blockchain and NFTs do for digital assets, is they act as this tangibilization layer. And the fact that it's semi-tangible allows us to define what ownership actually means, and allows for these things like downstream sales and potentially the ability to market it on a third-party platform like OpenSea. All that stuff is still being developed. We're kind of take a lot of this for granted, that simply because something is an NFT, we have all these rights. The reality is most likely that there still needs to be regulations developed around this, and certain things that apply to physical goods extended to this new class of digital goods. But the framework is there for that to happen. And so, I mean, I'm excited. I think that more and more, even if we don't see another NFT boom or any of the things that we saw in 2021, you're going to see NFTs back-ended into just about everything that uses digital assets, as that could incorporate an ownership component, because it just opens up so many avenues for new products, for licensing deals. And I guess where I was going with the collaboration example is it could very realistically be a world in the future where I go to DC Direct and I buy a Batman avatar, and by virtue of them selling me that Batman avatar, they are giving the right for it to be used in any platforms that are compatible. And then there's going to be deals down the line that define those rights, but it'll look a lot more like a backpack, right, than it would look like a physical backpack with a logo on it, then it will look like a game item in kind of one of these legacy games, even like Fortnite, where, an IP comes in and you get a Fortnite avatar that's a Batman avatar, and you can only use it in Fortnite, right? Because that's the deal, that's the walled garden, that's the only place that you can use it. I think it has the potential to kind of redefine how those deals are done, and you could see that meaning, much, much broader uses. I'd be interested to know, LJ, if you guys have kind of any thoughts on that specific point. I know the question was more metaverse and gaming focused, but you guys have been kind of on the edge of what I would call, a legal question of how rights to physical goods apply to, the digital space and to NFTs. And, you guys have opened up use cases that even I wasn't sure were possible, with representing physical goods as the IP itself as digital goods. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on where that's going, and because I'm sure you guys have talked to many, many lawyers about all that.
Yeah, definitely. So, as you mentioned, the sales doctrine, if you all remember the lawsuit between like Nike and StockX, we spent a lot of time trying to understand like what can we do from a legal standpoint there. So I think like the reason why we're using Web3 is really as a tool, not a destination. I like to say it, and the best analogy I could find it was similar to when Apple launched the App Store. There's no app industry. You have the travel industry that uses app to provide more value for users. You have like the social media industry that uses app for users. And so we use Web3 for really two main value. Number one is transparency, and number two is interoperability. And what I mean by that is for the first time ever, and the reason we launched Courtyard was for the first time you can prove that you own something and bring it across different web applications. You can just say like, I own this NFT or this part, and anyone can check and prove that you own it. And so if you tie it to something physical, for the first time you can bring that physical item and bring it to other platform, and you don't even have to ask for permission from Courtyard. You can just say, I own this, and somebody can prove that you own it, right? And so that opens up a lot of use cases that are really, really interesting for the future. And we're starting to see some of those use cases being applied. Things like you can borrow money based on your Courtyard assets. So for the first time, Courtyard doesn't even need to know about it. You can just say, I own that card or that collectibles, and borrow money against it on another platform without having to interact at all with Courtyard. They can just verify that you own that through Courtyard. Second thing is people can build things on top of us, and we can just leverage a lot of like the components because we're built on this public ledger that anyone can prove it, basically. So that's one of the core value and the core advantage of being built on Web3. The second thing is transparency. There's a lot of scams in the collectible world, and the fact that we're able to prove everything we do is a fundamental shift. Similar as we're doing those digital repacks where you buy something, you don't know what you're going to have. We can actually prove that we are not messing with the odds. We use chain random numbers on chain, so we can prove that whatever pack you got, we don't even know the pack you got. If you got the chase card or the cheapest card in the pack, we don't even know that. And the fact that you're able to prove that brings a lot of transparency for users and like the peace of mind that I'm not getting screwed, right? And so I do see a huge opportunity for allowing us to scale. And the way I like to say is we use Web3 as a tool, not a destination, because at the end of the day, our users care about what we're selling, which is collectibles, which is trading cards and so on. And so when we started, we focused a lot on like, hey, we're bringing physical asset on chain. And we realized that people that were buying those cards were maybe buying one or two because they didn't really care that much about it. They cared more about like, it's cool to have an NFT that's backed by something. But once we started to focus on, let's focus on the assets we're selling and going after the actual collectors of those cards, abstracting the Web3 element for them and really focus on the value while still using the transparency, the interoperability and all those elements really is when we started to see a lot of growth on Courtyard platform. So I think it brings us a huge advantage to being built on chain, because we can scale to hundreds of millions of transactions a day without having to scale our infrastructure. And because we can leverage a lot of those applications, we don't have to build a balance for you. We can just integrate with a company that does that, right? We don't have to build a lot of the complex infrastructure for payment, making sure like transactions go through and so on. Everything is in a public ledger. And then the last piece, I think it's specifically for collectibles. There's a fundamental shift when it comes to transparency where for the first time, you can see all activities from anyone, right? I can look at your account and see all the transactions you did, what you're buying, what you're selling, what you kept, how much money you have in your wallet, and so on. The main difference is I don't know who you are if you don't choose to dox yourself, if you don't choose to say like, I am behind this account. And if you look at the traditional collectors environment, like physical collectible environment, everything is opaque. You don't know who owns what happens with those assets and so on. And so that thing is, in my opinion, a really powerful like mechanic that can enable a lot more of community building, a lot more of like this sense of transparency and status online, which I think is what created crypto Twitter. If like how many times I've been on OpenSea back in the days and look at like, what does he collect? What does he buy? Maybe I should look into that type of collection and so on. And so all of those elements are really powerful, and the reason why we are building on chain is really to provide that like interoperability and transparency, and allows us to scale this way.
And then one quick follow-up question, and then I know we need to move on. I'm curious, just out of curiosity, are you seeing values, on these secondary sales, the value of the assets themselves going up as kind of a byproduct of this liquidity and system that you've built around these physical assets? Are you seeing them sell for higher than value?
Initially, yes, because we were targeting people who didn't use to collect cards. Like our initial audience were, and like most of our users never used to collect graded cards. Now that we're starting to move more to the traditional collecting world, the value of the asset is the value of the NFT is the value of the asset, and it's most likely that way. And I think that should be that way because at the end of the day, we don't add more value to it. They can do more with it for sure, but it's basically like if it's $100,000 card, it's going to be $100,000 card. It's not going to be 150 because it's on the blockchain. And the reason being that you could very well buy $100,000 card, the same card on eBay, and then put it on Courtyard. It doesn't mean like you make $50,000 more because you brought it on Courtyard, right? So I feel like we're kind of different because we are not constrained by all the market is not on Courtyard. If all the market was on Courtyard, I would agree because that's the only way you can get it. But if you can always go to a card show or eBay and so on and buy the same exact card below market and put it on Courtyard, that kind of negates the adding more value because it's as an NFT, basically.
Right, that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, I guess to the extent that things are not necessarily unique, right, that there's a direct replacement in the physical space, that would help that. I just think, we've also seen different utilizations of tokenization for real world assets. Like, for example, for art, where, having that liquidity and the ability to market something to the world rather than just, on eBay or on one platform sometimes opens up a lot of, potential out. So yeah, really, that makes a ton of sense. I'll kick it back to, let me see. I think Spencer's having Some technical issues. Let's see. Spencer, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear
Okay,
you. So we're ready to move on to the next question, I think.
cool. Gotta love X with all of the difficulties. Maybe if we stop talking about them having difficulties, they'll stop giving them to us, but we'll see. Um, all right. So, why don't we get on with our first individual question? And let's go to Django for this one. But here we go. In what ways do you think Web3 technology can improve the extraction shooter genre specifically? Django, do we still got you here?
I see the profile for Django. Do you have, I guess you're muted right now.
All right, well, we can move on and then we can come back. So let's see here. So let's do the next one to Numa. So how do you see the creator economy evolving with the integration of AI and Web3 technology?
Yeah, that's a great one. And that's right up our alley. Well, I was just listening to the Lex Friedman podcast a few days ago where they had an amazing startup team on his show called Cursor.ai, which is an environment for AI developers to build, test, and deploy AI services. And Lex was explaining that over the course of the last couple of years, he had built himself multiple different algorithms and AI services himself to automate the flows of distributing his content across social media. So there's two things that are happening right now: the exponential growth of people becoming creators as a living, and AI developers, because it's just so robust that junior developers can build some pretty significant AI tooling to help support problems that they see in their own ecosystem. And so it's very clear to us that the creator economy is going to be very closely married to artificial intelligence, and the process of distributing, repurposing, and making content from start to finish, and the marketing of that content as well, the visibility, the advertising, every single element of our lives is going to drastically change over the course of the next few years. But the one big problem that we see with artificial intelligence is the fragmentation. There's just so many different AI services all over the place. There's startups that are raising 100 million on a very simple algorithm that a kid in the basement can build himself right now. And so we just want to be able to leverage the decentralized world by allowing people to have one place to distribute these content creator algorithms to help support content creators in their journey. If any of the people in the audience or any content creator out there, they'll let you know it's very difficult. You think it's, make a few videos, cut them up, but you have subtitling, you have distribution, you have localization, you have editing tools, you have graphics you have to make, you have to come up with content. So another thing is it's incredibly hard to continue week after week, day after day, coming up with ideas. And so the marriage between AI and the content or the creator economy is going to exponentially grow. And I think that now is the time, with the growth and the evolution of Web3, the growth and the evolution of AI just in the last 14 minutes, but also the last couple of years, and social media continuing to grow and be the main distribution channel for all information. It's clear that there's a very, very big need for a decentralized, open, and anonymous platform to help content creators and AI developers with creating content. So I think it's a big future. I think that the time is now, and I think that the need is big. I don't think it's a one-player game here. So there's multiple different solutions coming out. And like I said, in Web3 being more collaborative, I find everything in the digital space being more collaborative, where you can, connect APIs to multiple different platforms. And that's exactly how our developer ecosystem will be. Cursor, AI, Alpaca, ChatGPT, Cloud, all of these different services. We want to make sure that we offer only the best to the developers that are in our ecosystem and power that with a token. So we might have the enterprise level access to a lot of these platforms, but people can leverage our token to gain access to different elements that they want to use. And then also our community members can, have their distributed compute that are powering the testing, the deployment and the usage of these algorithms as well. And that will all be on chain. And then if you go a deeper level, the content creation, you can be hashing all of the stuff that you've been creating. And we can also have a data layer to really predict where things are going and trending within our ecosystem, maybe a lot better than others. And that data will also be able to be, leveraged and sold in a decentralized way as well. So as you're collecting data of all kinds of stuff, let's say you build an algorithm that takes all of the gaming data that's happening in the Web3 world right now. You can be selling these data sets for others to build their solutions on it as well. So it's an ecosystem that's threaded together and can continuously grow and serve all members. And so yeah, I think it's a really wonderful and crazy world that we're stepping into. It's also scary. Like if you're in AI, like for real, and I was never the doom and gloom guy. I've been in AI for almost a decade now, and it just wasn't so intelligent, and I wasn't seeing that exponential growth that that made it scary. I didn't see these things that Elon Musk saw. But it's also quite scary when you start to think how fast it's moving at this point. So we'll see where it goes. And I think it's hard to predict. Sam Altman was talking about how he was absolutely certain that AI would advance in computer vision before natural language processing. Natural language processing is the branch of artificial intelligence where computers understand and learn and know natural language of humans. And then you have computer vision, which is more computer seeing like a human. But yeah, the later is true. Natural language processing is advancing much faster than self-driving cars and computer vision. And it's opening up a wide world of possibilities. And it's exciting, but also it's beginning to be a little bit scary when I sit at home and deeply think by myself in my bedroom. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. That's my take on AI and the creator economy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's now it's even scarier. You're using all those past tense verbs of didn't, and now you're sitting at home worrying about it, so making me worry a little bit more. But I think that's the conundrum, right? I think there's so much potential in so many different places, and I think you're absolutely right that nothing that we know now is what we're going to know in 3 years. I think paradigm shifts everywhere is kind of what looks like it's going to happen, and it kind of as founders, as builders in a space, you start to think sometimes, how do we stay afloat? How do we, ride that wave? How do we be ahead of that wave? And I think that's sometimes the challenge, but also the opportunity is that, what we think about as a game right now may not be what we think about as a game in 3 to 5 years with AI, right? We might have games. I always think that games are going to get smaller and more personalized, and it'll be every experience can be gamified, and fun can be extracted and, create more value, but also probably insert other things that you may not want. So yeah, I mean, I see you unmuted, so jump in if you want, but, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that like creating an open ecosystem that's so easily accessible, it's global, will keep you ahead of those trends, right? I don't know what kids are building in their mom's basement when it comes to AI solutions, but I want to give them the distribution and the place to play. And I think that whether you're building a game, a metaverse, You're building a new website. You're doing anything in the digital world and even in the physical world. Being on top of what is, being deployed on a daily basis is what Numa really wants to do. And that will help at least me, settle the fears or start to panic more deeply, seeing what's coming out and how people are using these solutions and what problems they're solving and where they go. But, yeah, it's an exciting world and I'm just so happy to be here. Like, I don't know what I would be doing with my life if I didn't find Web3. I certainly wouldn't have been so deeply involved in AI. So, it's just fun to be on the forefront. But maybe ignorance is bliss and maybe I should have just kept on building houses and, who knows, but we'll see. I have a bright outlook. I'm always an optimist and, so I'm sure it'll be okay. And hopefully we can like reward and incentivize our army of AI devs to, fight the opposition if AI is getting out of hand. So maybe it's the environment to be the resistance against, the bad actors.
So
But we'll see.
optimists versus optimists type of thing.
Sure. Yes.
Sorry, that was a bad one. Go ahead.
Pretty
Go
good.
ahead, Spencer. You can continue after my corny
Yeah,
dad
I'll
joke.
move us
I had to
along after
throw
that
one
one. Yeah, so we'll go next to LJ. And you might have gotten into this a little bit before, but if you have anything else to add, how do you think RWA technology will impact physical collecting landscape, over the coming years?
Great question. Yeah, as I mentioned, I think it's gonna change two things. Number one is gonna change the paradigm of like you don't have to collect and own the thing at home, and so it's much more transparent because if you have your collection in a public environment, I just don't know who you are. There could be a lot of opportunities for community building online. I mean, people are doing more and more things online, right? And so we've seen it with the NFTs. You could have like the club of like token gated club, token gated experience and so on. So I do feel like by having all of it public for the first time, even if you talk about not even cars, but if you talk about art or something, if you see it's online, you can at any point in time make offers on it, even if it's not for sale, right? So we do think it's going to increase the visibility of what's on the market. The second piece is around this idea of like instant liquidity. And the reason we see the ability of having everything that's vaulted and like tokenized and where you can have the digital version, you can trade from New York to Japan to Paris within a second because you just trade the ownership piece of it. And by having these super liquid markets, as we're going to get more and more of assets that are digitized, would it be on the blockchain or not on the blockchain, you could have more and more people that see collectible as an investment, essentially buying those as investments, similar to when you buy like a real estate or like a stock or something, right? And you will start to see market makers that are starting to make offer because it's a more liquid market. And so you can always sell back to the market maker at a bit below the price of the market. And once you have those components, you can start seeing bigger entities like hedge funds or like bigger funds that would simply deploy capital to diversify themselves and put some capital in collectibles. And so that's really, in my opinion, gonna truly expand the market where you start to have those institutional funds and institutional player that are able to say, I want to put 2% of my portfolio in collectibles, and they can just deploy it instantly because being on blockchain rails, for instance, you have a lot of infrastructure that's been built for making bids at scale, for instance. And so they would be able to make bids at scale and in a second say, I want to put $10 million in collectibles, make bids on every one of those assets in category at 90% below market or 80% below market. And they will be able to essentially invest in a way that's super liquid and super easy because they're all digitized and you don't have to ship the physical every single time. And it makes a much more liquid market overall. So I do see a world where and we've seen it in the trend we've seen, like people see more and more collectible as something that retains value. And so I do see that as a shift overall for people where it would be normal to put some piece of your portfolio in real estate, in stocks, in crypto and so on, but also in collectibles to diversify your portfolio on that. Because collectibles is essentially, I like to define collectible as anything that has either cultural relevance or emotional attachment, because you like that asset and you can relate to it, or you grew up having a Charizard and so you want to get back to it because it brings you childhood memories and so on. So you have this emotional attachment and something that retains value or tends to increase in value. If you buy something, but that something doesn't keep its value, it's not really a collectible. And so that's the way I see that whole industry move forward, is a much more liquid market that allows people to kind of diversify their portfolio and their investment into something they can relate to emotionally.
Nice. Well, yeah, as a huge collector myself in both physical and digital space, definitely agree with a lot of that stuff. And we've had on comics and crypto before, and really really exciting seeing everything that you're building. And we're definitely big believers that this kind of a model could be what eventually bridges a lot of those physical collectors into the digital collecting space. Just because I think that'll be like a big light bulb moment for them in really understanding, the technology and what it can provide. So, yeah, love it.
Appreciate it. And just, yeah, so we're one of them, but I think there's so many projects that are also starting to grow in different asset class or different collectible type, right? We started with cards, but they are some that, we're going to do comic book soon. But there are so many types of collectibles. And so we see this as kind of like this start, and there's going to be a lot more that are going to come into that market to bring the physical collectible. Digital is a huge one as well, but physical is a much bigger opportunity there. It's hard to do because you need to store, you need to deal with physical product, and it's not fun to have to ship hundreds of thousands of cards or collectibles across the globe, right? But we see this as kind of like a constantly evolving area, and it's going to keep on growing this way. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I think it addresses another problem in that um, in the market you don't know what exists out there if it's not listed for sale on eBay or on Golden or on Heritage or one of the auction houses. Like it's just there are so many collectibles that exist out there that there's just no public knowledge of because they're just sitting in somebody's house. But being able to put these things on chain gives a lot more transparency to all that, and it allows us to better understand what actually exists in the market, which I think is a really exciting thing.
Yeah, and the trust, like if you look at StockX, for instance, they have to, every single time a pair of shoes gets sold through StockX, they have to ship it to StockX, they have to authenticate it, and then ship it back, which is great because the consumer, there's so many scams that you don't know what you're buying. But if you only do it once, it's so much more efficient that you have to, like, it gives the peace of mind for people that you're buying something, it's been authenticated already, and you don't have to authenticate at every single transaction, which removes so many frictions because you authenticated once and now you can trade it 50 times. Rather than to have to authenticate at every single transaction to make sure it's an authentic piece, basically.
100%, 100%. And then I guess I wanted to see if you're able to hear us now, or I guess rather if we're able to hear you now, Django. Do we got you there?
I think he may have had to jump to another call, even though he's on.
Okay,
So
well, all right. Well, then I guess we shall close it out then. Um, I think it is time to announce the winner of our giveaway, which is, sorry, just give me a second here. It is Ovideo. Ovideo or at VO Ovideo V. I think we still got you here in the audience. I'm pretty sure. Let me just make sure. Nick, do you see them? Maybe not. We might have lost them. I think we might have lost them. All right then. Well then I will announce a different winner here. Um, Instead it's going to be Tuggy at Trenton1122. Congratulations. In order to claim your prize, please create a free account on. Oh, sorry. Do we need another one? Sorry, I just got a message that I think we might actually need to announce a third one. I think we actually lost that one too. So actually, the winner is at James Before Crypto. There we go. We actually got it this time. James Before Crypto, congratulations. In order to claim your prize of 5 Satoshi's crystals, please go to game.legions2029.com and create a free account, and then send the Satoshiverse account a DM with your username that you create, and we will get you your prize. Congratulations. And Nick, I'll pass it back to you to close this out.
Yeah, amazing panel, guys. Really deep insights from, experts in the space. So really incredible to have you on. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you to everyone who joined live and, supported the space. On our side, I guess what I'll do now is just, wrap up with a minute or so, and then everybody else, the speakers, if you'd like to just remind people how they can find you and where to go to participate, please feel free. There was one, so for our sake, if you missed the part before, we have our free-to-play game, Legions 2029. Check out the pinned tweet on our Satoshiverse profile for all of the info there. We've got a ton of stuff going on there. And one thing I forgot to mention is that last week or 2 weeks ago, we had our first Fortnite game night in our Fortnite experience that we've developed, which you can check out in the pinned tweets above. We're doing another one this week on the 17th. Let me make sure I've got the time, at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So Fortnite's a free-to-play game. It's available on consoles and Mac and PC, so mobile. If you've got any of those and you want to play Fortnite with the group, all the details are going to be in our Discord, so jump in. It's a great way to have some fun in a capture the flag experience that we built that takes place in our outskirts and features our characters. So really cool thing that we've been working a while on, and we finally deployed it. Still tweaking things, still upgrading things, but we had a lot of fun last week and looking forward to an even bigger turnout next week. So yeah, I'll pass it over to the other speakers to close us out. Once you guys are done, I will just wait a few seconds because there's a slight delay, and then I will close out the spaces. Thank you, everyone.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me over. It's great conversations. For everyone, people who don't know about Courtyard.io, so just go to Courtyard.io. We sell trading cards, so physically backed NFTs of grading cards. You can buy packs where you may get like a rare cards, and we provide instant liquidity. So if you don't like the cards you have, you can instantly sell it to Courtyard and buy another pack, or just withdraw your money and just come back another time. So really excited, and thank you so much.
I guess I'll go next. Thank you so much for having us on tonight. Tonight, my time anyways. You can find us at numa.social. We recently released a Telegram mini app called Scratch That, a digital scratch card game where you can win private sale allocation of the Numa token. You can win over $200,000 of TON and USDT, and you can win a whole bunch of other prizes. It's a very, very fun game. It's a good funnel for us to build our community. We launched about 10 days ago and have over 500,000 players, and they are converting into our ecosystem. Any partners out there that want to put some digital gifts into our game are widely welcome to do so. I think the distribution is great. And also you can join numa.social. You can connect your social media accounts and help us and our fellow partners grow and expand their presence on all social media accounts. We have what we call Super Stages coming out pretty soon, which is the new data analytics platform and community building tool for live audio and live streaming platforms. So doing lots, we have lots. So come join numa.social and participate. We're giving away stuff all the time and we're having fun, but there's lots of opportunities outside of the things I mentioned as well. You can join our Discord, which is a fun environment of a bunch of freaks. And I mean freaks in the most beautiful, wonderful way. And that's a wrap. And I look forward to joining you guys again and following your journey and you guys following our journey, and hopefully collaborate sometime in the near future, mid future, and far future. Let's get it done. Thanks so much for having us.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and I will wrap up the spaces.
Oh, you shine so bright. Got that crypto fever, keep me up all night. Investing in the new, taking the pills.